Hi and welcome to the SI Experience. It's Chris Dowty here. Everybody, I was away last week, so very refreshed, very excited to kick off this week. Very much with a source of focus. So this is going to be a day for sources. Anybody live, again, please ask questions. We've got a very special guest. I like to refer to him as puts the Mister in compliance. So we're going to introduce Tony Walsh. Hey Tony, how you doing?
Hi Chris, how are you? Hello everybody, how are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, so as I say, today's we're excited to have you on, and to say we're not just you're not just a special guest. We work together as well. But I thought this today would be really good because of for problems and stuff that we find on a day-to-day basis. But just for everybody out there, just why don't you tell us, who you are, what do you do, and why we're here today?
Yeah, hi, I'm one half of our family business. Some of you probably know my wife quite well, Tony Walsh. She's basically written a book on sourcing compliance, basically how to do it the right way, and basically keep you out of prison, worst case scenario. Or further back down the line is preventing you from getting fines, because there's a lot of people out there who want to be sourcers who maybe don't necessarily understand how to be a good sourcer.
And you yourselves, you're not doing this just from a what I would call a mission, right? That you've just found and you wanted to shout about. You guys yourself have been sourcing agents for quite a long time, and so it's really based from that experience. Is that fair to say?
It is, yeah. My wife Tina, she's been sourcing properties probably now for just over 8 years. I joined just over 3 years ago when I finished in the job that I was working in for 30 years. So I came on board, as I said, just over 3 years ago, learning the ropes and obviously learning from Tina, from what she's learned over those years before me.
And you yourself, again, come from a very robust background, right? You're ex-police service, is that correct? So I've got to be careful.
Yeah, I did 30 years in the police service. So yeah, like Tina, she's retired police as well. So yeah, we're quite passionate about about doing things the right way, and that's probably where we come from, in making sure that we try and do everything the right way, but more importantly, trying to make sure that other people do it the right way as well.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. So what we've got here, for everybody, we're going to go through loads of questions which we've been asked, consistently. So Tony and another part of the team from SI, Bonnie Marshall, she also, between the two of them, they assess sourcing agents, and depending on what stage they're at, whether they're just starting out, whether they're actually completely fully active, or whether they're very, very mature businesses, seeking them out really to sort of bring them onto the platform. In order to solve many of their problems, which every single sourcing agent that we talk with, no matter what stage they're at, have the same problems. And collectively, I think this industry, and this is just from our perspective, been in this for 6 years now. Is 6 years ago there was never such a term as sourcing agent. There wasn't, and I think very quickly that term has been adopted. And also been used as a way for many people to, training industries, to get people into the property game as such, or investing game, with the promise or hope of promise that they'll be able to do loads of sourcing, offload it to investors with the premise of making some cash flow, build up a capital pot, and then they can go invest in themselves. But that, in reality, is not that easy. What have you seen, Tony, with that? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good trading companies out there that are doing a really good job in teaching people how to find properties, how to source them. But it's taking it just a little bit deeper and making sure that they are doing it legally, compliantly, and ethically as well. Because at the end of the day, you're talking about people's money being involved, people's property being involved, and sometimes ultimately people's lives and livelihoods being involved as well. So it's making sure. We need to make sure that people who come into the sourcing arena are doing it for the right reasons, and that they're treating people the correct and ethical way.
And I think, like you said, it goes one step further, and that one step further, which I'm very passionate about, is about the professionalism of running a business, which I think many people, unfortunately, haven't necessarily had that responsibility themselves before. That's one aspect. And I think, when I've spoken with Tina, we discussed very heavily just simple things like communication, being responsive, to your client, and very simple basics, which we see very, very continually that people aren't doing. And especially in an age now where technology, everybody wants something instantaneous, your client needs that now. And getting back to them, 3 days later just really doesn't send the right messages. It doesn't, it says a lot of messages about, how unprofessional you are, but clients are your livelihood, and you have to look after them completely. You have to be attentive because you're a service business with a client base. And as I say, basics like that, what we see, unfortunately, in the wider play, just aren't being done well. And so, it's not very good for the efficiency of the sources business, but it's also not great, for a client experience either, who, at the end of the day, many are very apprehensive. It might be their first time investing in a property. They're using a sourcing agent with the idea of using their local expertise, etc. So again, you've got to quench those, fears, anxieties, and turn them into a good client by servicing them the best that you can. So, there's some simple fundamentals which I think, unfortunately, are lacking in the sector. So what we're going to do, Tony, is, as I say, for everybody, we're going to go through some set questions. And as I say, please comment at any time. There's quite a few people watching, which is great. So, comment anytime, but we will go through these questions systematically, and we're just going to discuss them. Is that all right, Tone? We'll lead it off with a question that's quite close to home.
Yeah, that's fine.
So one of the questions we have is, what do I need to be a legal sourcing agent?
Well, basically, you need to know that being a sourcing agent is what you want to do. Is it the right profession for you? Don't just go in blindly. You need to make sure that you've got an end goal, an end vision of what it is that you want to be as a sourcing agent. And it's not just a sourcing agent; it's anything that you want to do in business. You've got to have an idea of what the actual end result is that you're aiming for, and then set your stall out to how you're going to get there. A lot of people don't realise just what is involved in being a sourcing agent, or should I say a compliant sourcing agent. So you've got to make sure that you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting your clients, be that a buyer or a seller or both. And you've got to have certain things set in place. You've got to make sure that you've got insurance, professional indemnity insurance, to cover yourself just in case there is a complaint made against you.
Yeah.
You're in business, you're dealing with people, inevitably there may well be a complaint that is made against you, not because of anything that you've done maliciously, but just because sometimes things happen, things go wrong. So you've got to make sure that you're protecting yourself properly in that way. As well, making sure that you're part of a redress scheme. There are 2 redress schemes out there, so there is a choice. Research them and decide on which one it is that makes you feel that you want to join that one. And then also data protection. Again, you're dealing with people. You're going to be holding a lot of information on people, on property, quite a lot of sensitive information. So you've got to make sure that you're doing everything right, you're doing everything above board, and you're lessening any risk or any chance that that data could fall into the wrong hands. And also, a biggie, Tina's always going on about this, is the anti-money laundering side of things through HMRC. Again, you're dealing potentially with a lot of money. You need to make sure that you know where that money's come from, and that you can prove where that money's come from, again, just in case the wheel comes off and you're investigated. And that's just the basics. That is the tip of the iceberg.
And you're right, and I think that what you're saying there, the tip of the iceberg, is imperative, because I think, a lot of people think that, the compliance, there's a couple of things that we find, one is you do need those fundamental things. You need, your registration with the TPO or PRS. You need your ICO certificate for, like you said, again, sort of a reminder, which is to do with the Information Commission and data protection. you need to apply for your anti-money laundering through HMRC. But again, that's an application. You need a certificate that comes from that. But then more importantly, you need to have policies and procedures and documentation that support what that certificate means. So how are you actually operating when you engage with the client? What do you do? How do you do it? What happens if they fail the AML? Are you using a third party to do, the anti-money laundering checks? So, for example, we have a close partner called Landmark. We'll go into that. But, again, and the PI insurance. But again, what we're noticing with a lot of people is they're buying, cheappi.com and they think that that's enough. And what we found, and we've got, we now only have have gone into this and found that the policies that they're signing up to, you might as well burn the £200 that you're paying, because it's not going to protect you in any form whatsoever. So, for example, here at SI, we've actually worked with, the insurers themselves to now create the only dedicated professional indemnity product specifically designed for sourcing agents. And again, instead of paying 200, it might be £230, but the policies, it's not just about numbers of your protection. I've got 4 million cover versus 1 million cover. It doesn't matter. It's about the policies that are protecting you in your business, whether it's your fault, if it's not your fault, etc. So again, please just get the right certificates, get the right insurance cover, and create the policy documents that, for example, HMRC, I believe now, Tony, are checking, right? If you do have those policies relative to your AML.
Yeah, when you register or when you start your application for anti-money laundering supervision through HMRC, it is quite lengthy as the application. So you do have to set aside possibly a couple of hours to go through the application. But all the information that they're gleaning from you, they're going to be checking up that what you're actually saying, you can actually prove that you've got. So as you mentioned, the policies, procedures and processes in place, you've got to tick boxes that you've got those kinds of things. And what they're doing now, instead of going out and doing physical on-the-spot checks at certain premises, the limited really is to how many they can do in, say, 12 months' time. Someone's had a light bulb moment and they're actually doing it now online. So they're emailing you or they're sending letters to you saying that you've registered for AML supervision with us. Now we want you to provide this information with us so that we can check that it is doing what it's supposed to do. So people do really need to be careful that once they go down the road of starting the application process, that they've got all the information that they require, and more importantly, that they are doing what they say they're doing in the application process, because if they're not, they're leaving themselves wide open to fines.
So one of the things that we've obviously wanted to do, and again, from your side, Tina's side, our side, we're so passionate about what I would call the operational execution as well as the compliance aspect of doing it well. And so one of the things that we've got for anybody watching here is this is the sourcing investments, this is the demonstration area for sourcing agents. And again, what we've got here is a lot of resource. We've actually got, are you fully legal and compliant? The links directly to where you need to apply, etc. You can have a free professional indemnity review. So, we've done a lot of work to help even people who are just starting out. What does it mean? All of the features and products that we're helping, guys, or girls to get themselves in the best place possible to be compliant and, more importantly, be ready to actually hit the ground running as a professional business. So again, please, for anybody, please go to the sourcing agent area, and you can even book a call with Tony yourself to help you through that journey. So please, check that out. So I think that sort of covered the legal side of it, which is great. And so another, a really, other questions that we get all the time, Tony, is what are investors looking for?
Absolutely anything. Absolutely anything. I think sourcing agents need not worry about that. I know you get asked the question a lot. I get asked the question a lot. But I think you need to, as a sourcing agent, you need to turn it around and say, am I going to be able to meet the needs of what my investors or potential investors are looking for? Because unless you live right out in the sticks, in rural areas where you're not near any towns or anything, yeah, you may struggle that way. But if you live very close to any towns, cities, or anywhere like that, you're going to be able to find properties for people who want properties to buy. And the beauty of the Sourcing Investments platform is they've got that many people on there looking to buy properties. You know, you've no need to worry about what the investors are looking for. You know, it's just a case of making sure that you can actually meet the needs that's there for the investors, because there's that many people wanting properties. So don't worry about what it is that investors are looking for. They're looking for anything, absolutely anything and everything.
And I think one of our discussions that we have a lot with people is, look, what you've got to do really at the end of the day, you are correct. They are looking for buy-to-lets. They are looking for houses of multiple occupancy. They could be looking at conversions of commercial to resi. They could be looking at, I don't know, a long-term, I don't know, lease agreement. Does that make sense? They could be looking at, oh God, a bit of a land deal, etc. The key thing is, it doesn't matter what strategy they're looking for. As an investor, you are looking for a return on your money, okay? And what we say as a sourcing agent that you need to be doing is you need to be adding value to the investor. And that means one of two things. One is you need to be adding value that, for example, they cannot replicate those deals themselves. So, for example, if you have investors from London and you're based up in Wakefield, for example, first of all, they don't have line of sight to the potential opportunities in Wakefield. So there's one. Two, if I'm able to go either online and find a property through an estate agent and it's 100,000 and it's producing a rental of £10,000 a year, for example, and it's a 10% yield, if I can do that myself remotely through an agent, then you're not really adding any value if those are the kinds of deals that you're offering me. You have to be able to beat your local market. So if the local market on a buy-to-let 2-bedroom flat is probably 7%, you should be able to be finding at a slightly discounted rate or something that's undervalued, and me being able to produce something like 7.58%, something like that as a gross yield. That's the value add that you need to bring as a sourcing agent. Otherwise, the question is, if you're not adding that kind of value, then why do I need to bother with you? So that's the first part. So really, any strategy, any sort of opportunity which you can add value to, for example, you'll get somebody will be interested in that, whether it be locally on your doorstep. And again, the platform that we provide here actually allows you to grow your own investor base in what we call the white label service. So that is all of your own branded property uploads, everything, just so the clients that you build up are yours and you treat them as your own business, and it's a white label service. So again, gives you a big step and advantage compared to everybody else. But also the system allows you to upload those properties to hit our 1,500 investors, of which I think last month we had a further 75 join. So again, you're doubling your possibilities of selling these deals, which is great. But you have to be able to beat your local market. And for me, what the investors are looking for is not just the fact that you're going to provide the sourcing of the property, because then you're limiting, at the end of the day, an investor that has to find their own build team, and technically they're normally going to be local. You want to be able to provide something as a complete service. So all the sourcing agents on SI have the ability to offer that complete service. And that means refurbishment, so having build teams. It also means that you will facilitate, if need be, for example, liaising with the local council, whether it's to do with planning, whether it's to do with Article 4 understanding, a HMO license application, if that's applicable to the deal. But also it's really about being able to offer that lettings agent that is dedicated, either whether it's a buy-to-let for a certain lettings agent in the area, or whether it be for a specialist HMO lettings agent in the area. And you'll be able to facilitate that on behalf of the investor. If you are adding these things, suddenly now you are adding some serious value to an investor, being from afar, being down the road. You are the complete service. So that is really going to be the summary of what are investors looking for. Opportunities that they can't replicate themselves. And that doesn't mean it has to be the best deal you've ever seen in the world and it's 15%. It simply is this. The market at the moment globally, people are happy with a net 4 to 5% return on their money. Net. So the key thing is that if you are producing opportunities in the property market in your local area, like I said, we talk about Wakefield. I don't know why Wakefield. I don't really go there very often. But if a simple buy-to-let there is a 6 to 7% gross yield and we can just buy that today and it executing, well, I can go and do that and I don't need a sourcing agent. So you've got to be able to add value relative to your local investment area. That's probably what the investors are looking for. That's what we know the investors are looking for. So please don't get hung up as a sourcing agent on looking for the gold-plated platinum deal that's going to come once in a lifetime. Please go out there. There are opportunities every single day. And as I say, people saying that there aren't enough deals out there. At the moment, there is such a global supply of investors desperate to be parking their money. I can safely say, with all the data that we've got, what we see the demand, go and find the deals. And the opportunities are there, and then the investors are there to be able to match them with you. Any comments, Tony?
You touched on a really important point there about knowing your area. It's knowing what will work in a particular area, even down to what will work on one street and maybe what work on another street. So it's really important that you do get to know your own area. Speak to the agents, the letting agents and the estate agents. Find out which properties let better in certain areas, which properties are better for first-time buyers, which ones are maybe being used for downsizing, or ones that possibly are being used for upsizing. So it's having that local knowledge, with regard to schools as well, amenities, networks, road networks, train networks to, the bigger hubs. If people are looking to commute, then you add all that information together and you get, you're creating quite a good hub of information that you can present to any investor.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So let's move on to the next question. And again, probably I might be in a bit of a better position to take this. So we get this question: how many investors are looking for properties in my area? Very simply, if the opportunity is right, I would say that at the end of the day, you are dealing with a marketplace. The marketplace, people might have preferential, for whatever reason, areas that they like. Their mother-in-law lives there, etc. There's you cannot categorize this into one specific answer. For example, investors that we have, many investors from Hong Kong and Asia, they are naturally attracted to Manchester and Liverpool areas. And for whatever reason that is, it doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the country isn't viable, but they have a natural preference for that. But I would say, how many investors are looking for you? If you have the right deal, I will tell you now that investors will come to it. And the right deal being, like I said, beating your local area, it's a marketplace. And so therefore we are here to match the right investors to the right opportunities. And that's what you get with the SI system. So in order to answer that question, how many investors, go and find the deal and the investors will come, but it's not a guarantee that that deal will be bought by those investors every single time. The statistics that we have on the system are very, very simple. The world is a marketplace. We, for the first time, are actually able to see what happens between buyers and sellers, and we've got lots of data, and it's the first time anybody's been able to do that in this marketplace. We can categorically say that over 21% of the deals that are placed on the system are actually bought by investors. And yet sourcing agents with their own databases, it's around 8.7%. And so therefore, the only thing that we are doing here is we are verifying the investors. We're providing a system to provide confidence in both the sourcing agent, the build teams, and the investors, and that confidence is translating into results. And that's very simple. So to answer this question, go and find the deals. The investors will come. Don't be shy. Go and get the deals first. So another one is we get from investors is this: what fee should I charge investors?
It really depends on how you want to work. You can charge a fixed fee for anything that you source. That can be anything from a few £100 up to a few £1,000, depending on what type of deal it is that you're sourcing. It's got to be relevant and relative to the actual property. And the important thing as well is making sure that you don't get greedy. You want to make sure that if you're going to be working with investors, that you want to be working with them and get some longevity in, where maybe they come back to you wanting some more properties. So making sure that you don't actually get greedy. The other way of potentially doing it is by basically taking a percentage fee of whatever the property is sold for. But it's really important, whichever way it is that you decide that you're going to structure your fee, that you actually are upfront with what your fee charge is and how you want that fee paying, and you've got to make sure that you put that in the deal paperwork that you send out to any investors. And as well, it's probably worthwhile putting it in your terms of business that you send out to potential clients as well, so that you've got everything covered, crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's.
So I'm just going to add to that, Tone, and sort of say, people go, well, what fee should I charge? It's very, very simple. It's down to the complexity of the deal and what the offering of the deal is. If you have a very, very simple buy-to-let, say £55,000, it's producing, I don't know, 8% gross yield. It's already got a tenant in place, and it's not too much, it's a nice opportunity. It's not beating the local market by loads. You'd probably maybe charge somewhere between £1,500 maybe to £2,500 typically. Again, you've got to run your numbers and look at, does it break the deal? So don't undervalue yourself. Like we keep saying this to sourcing agents, don't undervalue yourself in what you're doing, but also don't overestimate what you're doing. So for example, if you're only just beating the marketplace, relative to a 7% grossing yield buy to let, and I can go and get a 6.8, you're not really beating it that much. And also the time and complexity for that deal with the tenant in place is not going to be too much of hard work. So make that relative to your time. One of the things that I really want to highlight to everybody and the sourcing agents who are watching this, do not underestimate the value of your time at all. And I think one of the things why people are not very successful in this business and they don't hang out is because unfortunately they end up trying to do too much and they don't value their time. If they put a time value on themselves of something like £20 an hour, they would soon very much understand if they're now doing sort of 40 hours, it's suddenly you're going to be charging, £8,000 fee there. Now, if you're only charging 3.5 and you're doing 40 hours work, you're losing in your time. So just be very clear on what you are doing for those fees. And on the system that we have, again, it's all very clear on that. We very much want to show precisely, what the fee and what you're doing for it is. So for example, and again, I will show very clearly here, is don't undervalue yourself, but at the same time, please don't try and run around and do everything for everybody and undervalue your time, because you are a business, you're here to generate revenue, you have costs associated with that, and your time is a cost. And I think very much people forget that play. What are your thoughts on that, Tony?
No, I agree totally with that. Yeah, agree totally with it. Because that's one of the commodities that a lot of people don't put a value on, don't put a cost on, and that's time. If you're doing a lot of the legwork and running around for investors to make sure that the deal that you're going to be getting for them is the right deal, it can take a lot of time. So you've got to make sure that you do value it and value it properly.
So what I'm just going to show here is just, to make it very easy. You can see that, I'm pretty sure, everybody. So this is a live property on the system. It's from one of our sourcing agents, all very upfront. This is the summary. This is a £4,000 fee, and they're doing a builder's quotation for it, and they are sourcing the property. Again, what we're trying to do here is create consistency and professionalism and transparency. And when, at the end of the day, that £4,000 fee is not going to decide whether the deal's going to go or not, but it's just got to be relative to it, relative to the complexity. And in this case, we can, very quickly have a look through this. It's a £60,000 purchase. It's a big £82,000 refurbishment, etc. So suddenly, you're talking about this is quite extensive, and these guys are charging a £4,000 sourcing fee, and they will be also charging a project management fee. And that actually relates back to the fees that you charge. There is the sourcing fee, there is the project management fee. And for example, if then suddenly you are liaising with architects or anything as an extra part of the deal, and you agree that up front with the investor, you'll be able to charge for your time as fees with that. So again, don't underestimate it, value yourself, and then the clients will value you. And I think many people don't want to have that discussion with them. But in actual fact, if you're providing value to them, people are more than happy to pay for that, because it's less burden on them and they're paying for that service that you provide. So here's one for we had generally. You can take this, Tone. do I need to have a building team?
I suppose it depends really on what it is that you're going to be wanting to source. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few sourcing agents who don't want to go down that route of sourcing properties that need that amount of work, and where they do need a building team. They just want to be able to find a property that maybe just needs a bit of a clean, a spruce up with a new coat of paint, and also maybe a carpet clean on new carpets. There are quite a lot of sourcing agents that do work that way, because that basically is probably where they're at as far as their skill set's concerned. There are also a lot of sourcing agents, though, that have actually got their own building team as part of their own business. You know, maybe they've seen that there is an area where they're working that they can actually encompass sourcing as a business as well. So the two maybe go hand in hand. The difficulty is making sure that if you do decide that you want to go down the route and pull in a building team of your own, is to make sure that they are reliable, that they are going to do what they say that they're going to do, and when it is required to do as well. But also making sure, again, going back to what we said about being a sourcing agent and being running it as a business, is making sure that side of it as well is being run correctly, because you could leave yourself wide open if you've got people working for you and they don't actually have the proper procedures set in place. If do they have the correct insurances? So again, it's just making sure that you do your full due diligence, and making sure that if you are going to have a building team, that you know exactly how that building team's got to run and how it's got to work.
Correct. And just going back, sourcing agents that are doing what I would call, like you described there, the light version of sourcing. Do you know what I mean? Finding properties that don't need so much, doing to it. I would turn around and say, if you are doing that as a sourcer, you're going to be finding it quite hard in a marketplace where residential buyers were more than happy to take those kind of projects on. The chances of finding a property that doesn't need a lot of work doing to it, in able to turn it around quickly, whether it's a distressed seller, at the end of the day, for agents, and that's estate agents, and it's not a scary thing for residential buyers to purchase at a higher price, because they can afford to do that. They're not looking at it from an investment perspective. They're not wanting to make 20% on it as an ROI. So I would turn around and say, as a sourcing agent, you're going to be finding those. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to be very much, not going to be You're going to be heavily competing in a place, not just with other sourcing agents, not just with agents, but actually residential buyers. As a sourcing agent, you should have the technical understanding and capability to be seriously adding value. And that means doing projects that not necessarily people know how to do themselves as a residential buyer. So, for example, taking on projects that need some substantial refurbishment or change of use, or a little bit more complexity. And also, this is what adds value to any property investment deal. And that, therefore, if you're able to add that value, that is what investors are looking for. Valuable investment propositions which are adding value and therefore creating an ROI. So if you want to be vanilla, try it, that's fine, but I think you'll be very much competing in a space that is already taken up by a lot of agents, normal agents, and people who just want the easy life. That, as a sourcing agent, is not going to make you a very, very effective sourcing agent over the long term. If they might come along occasionally, but really you want to be able to add some serious value. And that is not just finding a quick, easy lick of paint, turning around. You'll find it occasionally, for sure. But I think from the long term, you will be looking at solving problems that people don't necessarily want to solve themselves as a residential buyer. If you can do that, that's suddenly now you're in a segment of the sector which really you're able to add value to people who don't want to venture into that. And so that's therefore, by adding that value, that's where you can charge for your time, your skills, and your operational execution. That's my take.
Spot on.
So here's a good one then. I'm not going to do these in order. How can I manage a refurbishment with investors? Now, Tony, you take this, because otherwise I'll just keep going on about it. But I am going to bring up, obviously, our secret weapon that we've built, and is being used all the time now by a sourcing agent. So, yeah, please answer that one. How can I manage a refurbishment with investors?
If you're doing it on your own, if you're doing it because you've set your own business up, again, you need to make sure that you know exactly what it is that you're doing. You need to make sure that the investor is fully aware of what is going to be taking place. Make sure that the team that you're going to be using are fully understanding what is required. And as I said a little bit earlier, it is hard work if you're managing a refurbishment with a property that an investor has bought through yourself. So you do need to make sure that you're crossing all your T's and you're dotting all your R's. I mean, there is an easy answer to this, which I know Chris is going to come up with in a few seconds, but it's knowing what you're getting into. And I think you touched on it a little earlier, Chris, that, you know, a lot of people just want to look at doing the vanilla type source properties, which is fine, but it's quite a saturated market. So you need to try and stand yourself out from the rest. And if you can actually get properties that do need work doing to them, that do need a refurbishment, and you've got a team, a good team, you know, find out from other people if this team that you're wanting to work with have done a good job for them. Ask for, you know, can you contact previous clients that they've worked with? Find out what kind of work it is that they do. Have there been any problems? Have there been any issues? How did they address those issues? Were they done to your satisfaction? And just build up knowledge so that if you have any issues yourself with a refurbishment team that your investor is wanting answers to, you're going to be able to give them those answers because you've done the work that is required. And at the end of the day, you're working for an investor who's going to be paying you good money for a job that you're supposed to be doing for them.
So one of and again, you know this, Tony, and a lot of people will know this as well. You know, my you know, the COO of Sourcing Investments, Dell, he is very passionate about this topic. And the key number one thing is have a building contract in place. And that means as a sourcing agent facilitating from the builder what the end specification is going to be. It's going to be how are you going to get there and what is the payment timing and structure, you know, so what milestones are going to be hit in order to get to the end product, and having a legal contract in place that you can facilitate between yourself, the investor, and the builder itself. Please, at the very least, have a building contract. And they're very easily to come by. There is a lot of information on SI. We've done a big webinar on it. So again, for anybody watching, please go to the YouTube channel and you can watch it in depth about the discussions around that. That is fundamentally one of the biggest gaps that I see where it falls down with investors, it falls down with the deal, it falls down with the build teams. And it's just such an easy thing to solve, yet people don't want to actually make the effort to solve that. So, you know, from our side, and again, I'm going to show everybody something that we've added in. It still needs a building contract, but this is again about the confidence and the facilitation of payments for the stages. We created the Sourcing Investments Renovation Escrow Service. So this, after the offer has been accepted, is something that happens as part of the conversation area, which is now an app, which is going to be released in about 3 weeks' time. And this is part of the deal. So you can see here is a schedule of works, which is laid out. And here is the escrow money that is paid to SI from the investor and is then released to either the main contractor or the sourcing agent. So here the sourcing agent is charging a £423 fee for the project management because it was only a light refurbishment of, I think, about £4,500, something like that. They have actually increased the cost. You can see the additional work because what they've discovered is that some more things needed to be done. So, for example, additional fencing work was agreed. Now we can see that obviously there is now remedial works to the boiler. So again, a little bit of an extra, but again, this is all laid out and very clear. So there is no, oh, you know, I didn't agree to that, the investor says, and even if they did, do they pay you on time? This gives security to both the sourcing agent, the builder, and more importantly, the investor. And that security and transparency is relating to a lot of confidence. And so therefore, again, all of the tools that we provide for sourcing agents are built into the system, and we're the only company that has done this and achieved it. And so, you know, this is something that a lot of the sourcing agents all of them are using with any kind of refurbishment because it gives them security of execution and transparency working with the investor. So should anything go wrong, it's very clear, very obvious. So we're very proud of that. Because your thoughts on that, what we've built there, and obviously what you discussed, Tony, is a game changer, right?
It just takes away a lot of the worry. It takes away a lot of the uncertainty, and as you mentioned, it shows everything step by step, and it gives not only the investor reassurance, but it gives the sourcing agent reassurance as well that everything is being done right, and importantly, when they're going to get paid as well, because that's what they're doing it for at the end of the day. They're doing this, obviously, as a business to get an income in. So it's making sure that at the end of what you've done for the client, you're actually going to get paid for it, and the platform does it 100%.
So we had a good question the other day, and this question is this. What is the process, so the flow, of going through a deal? So this is typically probably for sourcing agents who are starting out, just taking their first steps. I'll probably take this one on and say, at the end of the day, there is as an investor, if you've done them yourself, you'll understand from the buying process through to the, or even before that, the assessment of the deal, getting the funding in place, the buying process itself, understanding the refurbishment, getting quotes, what do you need to do tactically and strategically with regard to whether it be licenses are needed, building regulation certificates, electrical certificates just on the refurbs, etc., through to working with your letting agents, through to getting those done before the end of the refurbishment so you can move people in straight away immediately, so your cash flow on your property, etc. So there is a standard process flow, and I think, so again, we've provided that in the system. It is built within the system. So for anybody starting out, it's something that you can research. We've got process flows, etc., which you can do before you start going live. And again, this is things that it fascinates me that these questions come up, Tane, because this is Billy basic stuff. And unfortunately, when we talk about sourcing agents stepping into this space and they're asking about, process flows of how a deal works, I would turn around and say, hey, you need to go and get trained properly, before you even start venturing into this space, because one of two things will happen. It will end in tears, and you could be financially on the hook as well if you don't do it right. So, what are your thoughts on this sort of topic?
It goes back virtually right to the beginning where we started this conversation about being professional, being business-like. You need to set yourself up as a business. At the end of the day, you want the business to pay you. And our Tina uses a saying quite a bit, and I've heard other people using it quite a bit, that if you set your business up as a hobby, it'll cost you like a hobby. But if you set your business up as it should be set up as a business, it'll pay you like a business. And I think that's important, that you've got to remember that if you're coming into being a sourcing agent, then be professional, be business-like. If you're doing it as a hobby, it is going to end up probably costing you money.
Couldn't agree more. And again, for me, is I don't think there is enough detail when I've seen the training courses on how to actually operationally execute to set yourself up to be professional. And that's just that little bit of a gap. And so again, what we found here is, look, there's a lot of enthusiasm, there's a lot of good people out there, they can find the deals, but they just need that, as I say, confidence and scalability. That's the key, scalability. Everybody can do a deal, one or two deals on Excel spreadsheets. They can do it, via email, etc. But if you're actually wanting to make a sustainable business out of this, which means doing at least a deal a month, and you're charging £2,000-3,000, so therefore it's it's a substantial income, of sort of £25,000 to £30,000 a year. You need to have scalability, and that's where people fall down when they're doing scale, and it means that they can't manage their multiple clients, etc. And that's where we come in massively. So if you are serious about doing this as a sourcing business, and you need scale, you need reach, so not just local investors, you can build your own business up, and you also want access to international investors who are absolutely chomping at the bit for working with decent people. That's the system that we provide to allow you to grow your business. So again, the process flows, there's been a lot of thought into this system. I think we've now spent nearly £800,000 on it over the last 5 years. So there is a lot of thought, and as I say, come and check it out. and have a demo. Let us run you through it, and you'll see the complete value that it's going to bring. And there's going to be a lot of topics and a lot of things that you haven't even thought about. But here's the key. It's something that we solved as an industry. You are not alone. The challenges that you'll be facing, somebody's had them 20 times before. And so let us work with you in order to make this an easier journey for you so you can create a sustainable business. So I think we'll say, I've got one here at the end, but here's a good one. When is the right time to start sourcing?
Now. A lot of people, especially in the situation that we find ourselves in, you know, it's, if you haven't already started a sourcing business, then now is a really, really good time to start sourcing or to start your business and look into the benefits of sourcing. There's a lot of talk possibly about the housing market taking a dip. It may do short term, but I think there are going to be lots of opportunities out there, and people, investors, always want to buy property. You know, we live on an island where we can't increase the size of the island, but we need more and more houses. We need more and more property. So there is always going to be a need for somebody to actually provide property for the investors that are wanting to buy property. So if you're thinking about it, it's start now. But if you're going to start now, start the right way.
Yeah.
And look at working with sourcing investments with a platform that they've got, because that will springboard you so much further along than it would do if you try to do it on your own, because the safety net that is there, that is provided by sourcing investments, it's going to massively help.
And I think a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, now, you're always saying now. When is the right time to buy? When is the right time to sell? Do you know what? The key thing is about taking action. And the now, whether with your, like you said, I couldn't highlight it enough. There is always a demand for people wanting a return on their money, always, globally, locally. So, and as I say, the market that we sit here in the UK specifically is just an unbelievable, marketplace that we have. Quite simply because, like you said, because of that massive high demand for housing, the lack of supply since the 1950s, since the post-war, that's not gone away. You have a strong legal system here which protects the investors and the landlords. You have a great financial system which allows us to actually have buy-to-let products, HMO products, lend against asset bases, etc., to be able to grow your own individual portfolio or business in itself. And ultimately, we're very pro entrepreneurial, and I think when you start talking to people around the world, and you turn around, for example, in Australia, they get negative yield. It costs them to buy a property, but they hope that the market will go up in 5 years, and they will be able to offset the money that it's cost them, per month, sort of £500 a month to hold that property. After 5 years, they'll be able to get that back because the property's doubled or even tripled. But again, it's just hoping and finger crossing. That's not investing. So we've got a great situation here where even buying properties in central London are going to make you a 3% yield at the very least. So it's a great place to be in the UK. So really, for sourcing agents, the thing is, get your compliance, get your business set up, and you want scalability. Talk to people like Tony. The time is now. Stop making excuses. The excuses come from, oh, it's not right. I'm going on holiday next week. Oh, COVID-19. Oh, Brexit. Oh, financial crisis 2008. Stop it. Now is the time to get on with it. If you are uncertain about how to do it, if you're uncertain how to scale, that's where we come in place. We've built the system for it. Stop giving yourself excuses. Too many people give excuses, and the actual people who make it happen are the ones who take action. And you're not going to get it perfect. You're not going to get it perfect, but at the end of the day, you've got to learn, you've got to do, and as I say, working with sourcing investments, Tony, Bonnie, myself, the team, the support team, you're in the best environment to perform well. One of the great examples that we had recently was Ryan, and I'm just going to you know Ryan. So just tell us a little bit about Ryan. We'll do this as a nice example. Tony brought Ryan on, but tell us a little bit about Ryan himself, how you found him. Does that make sense? It sounds like you found him on the street or something. But, you know, how did you find him? What was his situation before he worked with us?
Yeah, Ryan is a really nice chap. I've been speaking to him for quite a bit. He's in Tina's Facebook group, and there's always a bit of banter goes on with other people who wanted to be sourcing agents or who actually are sourcing agents. And he had properties. He could find the properties, the deals, but his difficulty was finding the investors, the persons that would buy, and that he could qualify and make sure that they were legitimate. Because the important thing is making sure that you do your due diligence, not just on the property that you're looking to actually sell to an investor, but more importantly, doing due diligence on the investor, making sure that they're not going to waste your time, and that they're not what we call here in the north as a tire kicker.
Yeah.
So I spoke to him probably 2 or 3 times, explained what the platform could potentially do for him in his position. He ended up having a demonstration, I believe, with yourself, Chris. Really liked it. Really thought that the idea of the platform was great. It gave him the reassurance and the safety nets that I think maybe he and potentially a lot of other people as sourcing agents don't necessarily have. So he felt that safety net was there for him, and he said that he did have a deal. So basically, we said, you know, get it put onto the platform, and then I don't know if you want to come in on this, Chris, but he was quite surprised, I think, by the reaction that he got from the first deal that he put on there.
And again, he was a great guy. And again, he was, you know, this is his story. You know, so in 2019, he took two training courses through two companies. And again, it's something that we you know, this is where you've got the training, and then there's the operational execution in the real world. And, you know, he very much had, you know, no genuine support after he'd done the training courses. And so it was a little bit, you know, could find the deals, didn't know quite how to connect the dots between all the parts of his business. And, you know, he wasn't quite sure how to apply it. You know, and again, this is what we see. This is not just Ryan, this is a generic thing, but source of confusion on how to execute actually within their business. And again, what he also found was, you know, there's this premise that a lot of companies go, I'll go and find the deal and the investors will come. Yeah, I like the idea, but in reality, like you say, there's the tire kickers. So again, you can throw these things out on Facebook, you can throw these out to some database that you've bought, whatever it may be, Google ads, whatever. But the key thing is look, people, it's a bit like, you know, shopping. They like observing, they like, you know, getting a bit of knowledge out of you. But at the end of the day, all of that consumes your time. And so therefore, you want to be working with people who have taken the time, who are serious and have verified themselves. And he found that he was getting a lot of people wasting his time. And, you know, it just led him to, you know, from a high risk situation, he's got deals, he spent time and money, you know, thousands of pounds on these courses, etc. And also, you know, he was quite disappointed, I think, in what had happened sort of post training. So as I say, Tony sort of met him. This is, you know, an example of his own page now. And as you can see, sort of, he's got live statistics. He's got his own teams. He's compliant. He's now submitted all of these additional checks. I've got to update this slide. But the key thing is that this is now his, and it allows him to accelerate his own business with his own investors, as well as working with SI investors. So this is, he was introduced to SI on the 2nd of April, 2020. And he uploaded his first deal 6 days later, and the 6-day gap was us checking and verifying his company, who he was, background checks, which Tony and the team do as well. And he uploaded his first deal onto the system on the 8th. Here are the two, you know, people who put offers in. One had verified themselves. So from the system that we've built, the investors have to verify themselves, and that means proving that they've got the money funds. They've got a UK limited company set up. They've got their verified proof of address and ID ready. So again, we're making it much more efficient and for the sourcing agent. And you can see here that the verified investor made an offer on this property, and in actual fact there were 2 offers on this property on the very next day. Sale agreed was on the 10th of April, and he's now using SI for his own clients as well. And it's just so we talk about it, Tone. We've built a lot of time and built a lot of systems and put a lot of time into this. And we talk to people like Ryan, who we see continually. And Ryan actually is a real good grafter as well, so fair play to Ryan. And from his perspective, he's now got something that allowing him to scale, and now he's doing it. And like we've said to him, go and get some more deals. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we've got a very, very happy client. This is all during COVID. So again, I don't want to be hearing from anybody saying that there's no demand out there, etc. The deal actually closed through COVID. There was no issues with regard to the legal side. And now we're coming out the back of it. Things are getting back to normal, relatively. I'm going to use the word relatively. There's no reasons or excuses. And so therefore, we're just so proud to have this system to be able to offer it to clients. And at the end of the day, this is just a great example of that. And we've got many more of these, but Ryan's a great one. So we talked about when's the right time to start sourcing. We've talked about some of the features. And again, I think we'll stick in this as the final question, Tony. I did say we'd talk for half an hour, and I told you it'd be easy. Tony was a bit apprehensive to do this, which is great. So the great news is it's quite relaxed and easy, right? And I think this is one for all sourcing agents, the ones who you've talked to, the ones that you talk to regularly, the ones you deal with, your 6,000 agents in your group that you work with Tina on. And one of the things that comes up operationally is I'm finding it hard to find legitimate investors. Are they wasting my time? And how can I solve this?
Sourcing investments platform, easy answer.
And again, I think, we jest about that, but really, at the end of the day, you're trying to do 2 things very quickly. There's money involved. They don't know you do, as in the investor. You don't know them. There's a lot of promises. There's a lot of expectation. And unfortunately, when you're spending, at the end of the day, yes, they are buying into you as a person, but they're actually buying into the professional side of the business. And what you need to get to very quickly is, are they legitimate or not? So, for example, on the system that we've now built for you guys, as in sourcing agents, they can register. They have to fill in 5 fields. They're for you. We don't get to see that. They're your clients. And if a client cannot be bothered to actually just fill in at the first stage 5 data points that allow them to see your properties and only your properties only, you've got to say to yourself, are they the type of person that is actually going to then part with £80,000 cash, to actually purchase this property when I've teed it all up and got it to a stage of it being, good to go. And this is one of the things, as well as, we put some extra layers of complexity in for these investors, again, proving their funds, we do that for you, etc. This is about efficiency of your business. And if you don't take that seriously, you will spend a lot of time, a lot of talking, a lot of explanation, and you will not be generating revenue for your business. And that's why a lot of people in this sector, unfortunately, get disheartened, because a lot of people waste a lot of other people's time. If you're asking for 5 fields of information and allows them to come into a legitimate, professional environment, such as sourcing investments, you've got to be asking yourself, why are you dealing with this investor? And also, I will say that, people will find maybe 1 or 2 investors that they know locally, and they will trust you and they will just give you some money. That's great. But even those local investors or local people that or friends and family will run out of capital eventually. And so therefore, you can't rely on these people to continually be just your sole source of revenue. You're ultimately working for them. You haven't developed a business. Your business needs to be bringing in new clients, new capital funds, so you can align properties that you found with their capital. And so therefore, you need to grow your client base. You need to grow your business to be legitimate so it can stand on its own 2 feet. It's not just a case of finding a sugar daddy, and working for them. That's great, but they're not going to be there all the time. You need to have multiple clients, de-risk yourself from a reliance perspective of your business, and so therefore be able to use a system such as SI to actually fundamentally grow your customer relationship management, your investor base, whether you go and grow those, working, going to pin networks, meeting people, tell them, hey, look, I've got some deals, come and check it out, come and register. And if they can't be bothered with, as I say, sort of for 3 minutes and giving you their details, then you've got to be asking yourself the question, are they legitimate and they're going to work with you? So, I'm always quite humble with regard to when people like Tony, who have been around a long time, saying, use SI. It's humbling. And as I say, this is what we set out to design and solved, and we're doing that for many, many agents. And so we just need more, because right now we have so many investors looking for properties. The demand for the properties and the funding that we're seeing that's out there, more importantly, not just out there, within the system. We were showing a property earlier, it's been up there for less than sort of 12 hours, and there are 45 people interested in it. So please, if anybody, sourcing agents are out there, we've got all the systems in place and designed and are growing and adapting. Even, as I say, the app, which is going to be on the iOS app, and also on Google Play for Android. It's going to be released soon. So suddenly you'll be able to use it like a legitimate WhatsApp, all in one place to be able to manage multiple clients. Please give us a shout. Please, at the end of the day, go on to sourcinginvestments.co.uk, go into the sourcing agent area, book a call with Tony if you want a conversation. Make sure you log in for a demo. The demo is there. Make sure you've got everything in place to make your process with Tony and SI much more effective. I think that's probably about the summary, but we're going to have a half an hour chat, Tony, and it's turned into an hour. And to be honest, we could still keep going, couldn't we? Well, all I can say is to say thank you so much for your time, Tony. And everybody watching live, which is now, and also, when you watch it again in more YouTube-friendly time, when you're, in your own time, please go to sourcinginvestments.co.uk. You can join our Facebook group for the investor side, which is the SI family group. You can subscribe to Sourcing Investments on YouTube as well. And there is the Sourcing Investments Sourcing Agent Facebook group as well. So please check that out, and depending on who you are and what you want to do. We're here twice a week. We're excited on Thursday to be talking with a big developer who we are now working with, who is operating in the outskirts of Manchester, in Greater Manchester. So very much one for everybody else. They are a developer, but technically we are providing the same sort of comfort, structure, satisfaction, and transparency, even working with the developers. So please, check in on Thursday. Tony, anything to add from your side? Tips, tricks, anything, or we'll just tell them, say, give you a call and you'll talk them through it.
Yeah, just to anybody who is either thinking of starting up as a sourcing agent or who actually are sourcing, and you're struggling maybe finding investors, or the people who say that they want to work with you, they're not actually responding to any of the messages that you're sending to them. This platform, and I'm not just saying this, but this platform does take away that worry. It does take away that issue. It saves so much time. Chris alluded earlier with regards, the checks that need to be done with the investor. We've had it ourselves where we've had people say to us, that I've got this person who's an investor, but they're just not responding to any of my calls. They're not responding to any of my messages. How long have you been trying to message them for? 3 months. That a deal can be done roughly in that time. So This platform kind of takes away that issue. You want to try and get things speeded up. The platform will do it. Give myself a call, contact SI, speak to Bonnie, speak to Chris, speak to myself, and we'll give you the information that is freely there available for you. I think everybody who I've spoken to from a sourcing agent's point of view regarding the platform, there've been one or two that have been a little bit sceptical. There's been quite a few that really hadn't known what to expect, but everybody so far who's come back who's said what a difference it's making. The information that is on there, the reassurance, the safety net. A couple of people have actually used that terminology, the safety net that it provides for you. And it builds that confidence, because that's what it's about. If you started out in business, it's almost like starting a jigsaw. You've got to find all the pieces, you've got to make sure you've got all the relevant pieces, put them all in the right place. Sometimes you just need that little bit of help, and the platform will certainly give you that help, and it'll help you create that fuller picture a lot sooner and a lot quicker.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tony. It's been a pleasure. Anybody else, as they sort of reach out to us, go to the platform, sourcinginvestments.co.uk, and we'll be in touch. But thank you so much for your time, Tone. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
And we ought to do more of these because you're a natural.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, mate. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care of yourselves and all the best. And we'll see you on Thursday. Join in and like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.